a blessing and an honor for me to see you this day. Thank you. This is on the church calendar. This is called the 8th Sunday of Matthew. Everywhere, whether you're in Greenville, South Carolina, or Athens, Georgia, or Athens, Greece, or Moscow, Iowa, or Moscow, Russia, it's going to be the same gospel and epistle lesson. This is one of the ways that our churches stay tied in communion with each other. And there's a rhyme and reason for everything. There's a rhyme and a reason why things are read. The epistle lesson and the gospel lesson that is read on that particular Sunday for a specific reason. Today, we heard the story, very well-known story, of how Jesus fed the 5,000. In today's lesson, it says men, excluding women and children. Took 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of, let's say the desert, it was in the wilderness. There were no fast food restaurants, no Clocks, no Carolinas, no Pete's, no Petey's. They were in rough shape. And then something. The disciples looked out there, and this was late in the evening, and said, look, it's kind of late, and they're probably hungry because, you know, the apostles' stomachs were growling too at this point. So how about dismissing them now and let them go find something to eat so they can go back to their places, their houses, etc. And something very difficult, I say difficult to understand if we really start examining it. When the disciples said, this is a lonely place and the day is now over, send the crowds away into the villages to buy food for themselves. And Jesus answered, they need not go away. You give them something to eat. Ο Χριστός, όταν οι Απόστολοι τον παρακάλεσαν να διαλύσει τον όχλο, να πάνε σπίτια να φάνε, γιατί πιστεύουμε και οι ίδιοι Απόστολοι θα πεινούσαν, θα θέλουν και αυτοί κάτι να φάνε. Και είπαν, δώσ' τους άδεια να πάνε στα σπίτια τους και να βρουν κάτι να φάνε, να αγοράσουν φαγητό να φάνε. Ου χρίαν έχωσιν απελθήν, τους είπε ο Χριστός, δότε αυτής ημείς με το ύψιλον, εννοεί εσείς δώστε τους κάτι να φάνε. There are times, my beloved, when, in looking at these words, at this gospel lesson, I find myself thinking about myself and things that I have done and not done. There are times when I may be walking along and I see somebody who may be in a financial bind. And again, because I'm wearing my uniform, I said, okay, it's coming. I know I'm going to be asked for a handout or something to help tide this individual over. So I brace myself. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There are times maybe, not just we might be out somewhere and see somebody who's kind of walking around, maybe seeing that person, I don't know, maybe crying, maybe obviously in some need of comfort, some soothing. And I know, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I know that we need to be very, very careful, and especially in today's world. If I make a move towards that person, I don't know what I'm going to find on the other end. I get it. Sometimes, though, I need to look around, at least if I can't and if I don't feel comfortable, and I get it. I promise you, I get it. We have to be careful. We have to be, in being honest here, we have to be very careful about going up to a stranger and seeing if we can be of help. I don't think that I would advocate that. And I hope and pray to God I'm not saying the wrong thing here. But let's go a little step further. It's somebody, a friend, maybe just an acquaintance, who's kind of just there. Do I really want to go over and engage? Or am I waiting for somebody else to come over and to help that particular individual? We find ourselves often in turmoil to the point of not knowing whether we should or should not step over to help someone who looks like he or she needs help. Most of the time, and I'm not pointing to anybody else, I may be looking around and waiting for somebody else to come over and to help out in this situation. Who am I waiting on? Superman on the side here? Well, I may be waiting for somebody who looks like he or she might be ready to step in. My home. This past week, and as I was making some visitations, one parent looked at me and said, you know, Father Tom, I'm having a problem. Well, I know, I get it. Who doesn't? And it said, you know, I'm having trouble trying to keep my kids on a path where they can be the Christians that we want them to be. So what can I do about it? Where can we go? What can we do? I know you're busy, trying to give me an out. Said, I know you're busy. You can't do all of these things for everybody, for my kids, everybody else's kids. But I'm really looking for some help. What do you suggest? And when I was over this week, when I was starting last week, reading over today's gospel lesson, trying to think about what I was going to say, what I was going to share, trying to share with you, he came to mind, this young dad came to mind over and over. And then this one particular verse in today's gospel lesson, they don't need to go away, you give them something to eat. And this is where I'm going today. This week, I had a group of juniors and seniors of high school there for, I guess, a summer session, a very well-known school here. And it was a smaller group this time. They wanted to come in and look at the inside of the church. Some of them had been here before, the Greek festival, and they were at the church tour, and this is one of the reasons we have the Greek festival, so we can have a church tour to introduce people that are not familiar with the Eastern Orthodox sense of traditions and the Eastern Orthodox way of worshiping God. So a couple of them had been here, 2 or 3 of them had been here before, the others, no. And what I usually try to do is you have to begin to see where their minds are. Think about where their thinking is at that particular point. You start in on Orthodox theology, they're gone. They're not here for that. They're here to see, maybe hear a couple of things. And so, okay. So as we're coming into the church, what I typically do when I do a church tour, I ask them to do the same thing that an Orthodox Christian would do when he or she comes into the church. What's the first thing that you do when you come into the church? You do your stavro. Excellent. A. As you're coming into the church, as you're doing your stavro, you're getting yourself ready. You're getting yourself, prepping yourself, hyping yourself to think about where you are and what you're there for, to think about praying to God. That's what we're doing. We're doing our stavro. Then you go over, you take a candle, you light the candle, and as you're lighting the candle, you're doing something there too. You can be doing your stavro, and you could be saying, hopefully, you're saying, mia prosephi. Not one prosephi, many prosephies, many prayers. You're remembering your loved ones, your family members. You're remembering your if you're married, your spouses, your children, if you have children, your grandchildren, your aunts, your uncles, your parents, whatever, if they're still living, etc., etc. I'll take 3 candles. I'm just saying this. I take 3 candles. One is for all the living, and I'm remembering the living, my family, etc., and people that have asked me to pray for them during the week. And I'm saying their names as I'm lighting the candle. Please, Lord, be merciful to your servant. John, Bill, Sam, Mary, Patricia, etc. I'm going over, lighting the candle. Why? Because it's getting me involved, because I'm doing something. They're connecting to that. They're connecting. The kids that never seen this before, or if they've seen it, they don't know what it means. But they're seeing something, some action, something actively taking place. Coming over, put it in the sand, and you go over it, and then I say, we do something really weird, really strange. We go over, as we're doing our stavros, saying a prayer for these people. Oh, we're lighting candles I light my candles for the living, and then I light a second candle for the deceased. I light a candle for my parents, for my wife's parents, and for other deceased individuals. I'm saying their names, putting that in there. And then I've shared this with you in the past. And then I light a candle for our marriages, because marriage is a living entity. It is a living thing, and it demands, absolutely needs prayers. Please don't forget your marriage. Light a candle for your marriage. If anything ever needed prayers, it's your marriage. Along with that, something else that's very vital and important to us, and I thank God for that, for our jobs, for our work, for the place where we go to do something, to get something back, to put food on our table, roof over our heads, clothes on our backs. We need to thank God for that job, and I do. And then we come to the middle, we go and kiss the icon. We usually go into explanation of what all of that means. You know, you're here. Most of you here are familiar with all of this. And then what do? You come and you stand there and you start getting ready to come into the church. Now, all of that to build up to say, what do you notice as you first came into the church when you did your stavro? What did you notice as a guest come into the church and the narthex? That's called the N-A-R-T-H-E-X, not narthex, narthex, N-A-R-T-H-E-X, narthekas. What do you notice when you come through the door? That's a question. Icons. Okay, be a little more specific. I'm sorry, honey, I can't. The icon of the Virgin Mary, where? Which one? How about that? Do you see that? You see the icon of the Panagia, the Theotokos, with Christ there? Okay, that's what this young man was right on track, but that's usually the first thing that they mention, and it's supposed to be the first thing that they see when they come into the church. Our church is following an ancient tradition. We didn't think about this ourselves. When we were planning all of this, before this ever got put up, we went back to the ancient architecture as was in that early apostolic church. And the way it's made, you see the cross here, the length, the width. But when you're coming in, we were praying, and through some very gracious, generous donations of you, congregants, the first thing that went up was the Panagia Platitera ton Uranon. Those words mean she who is wider than the heavens. Why is she there? We didn't think about this. All we did was follow the centuries, millennial traditions. She's there for a reason, because the ceiling represents heaven. That's why Christ is in the top of this one. And the floor represents earth. That's us. We're on earth. So Christ in heaven looking down on earth. I won't go into all of the other things. We've done this before. But we're including everything. What connects the ceiling and the floor? What connects the ceiling and the floor? The walls. No rocket science here. The walls connect the ceiling and the floor, right? That's what they're... Well, that's why the Platitera, the Panagia, is there. She is there to remind us that she is a bridge, because connecting, get it? Heaven and earth are connected by bridge, the Panagia. She did something that no one had ever done before, nor will anyone ever do again. She carried in her womb He who created the entire universe and everything besides the universe. This is why we commemorate her, and I go to great lengths to try to explain to our guests, we do not worship the Panagia. We honor her, we venerate her, we show of utmost respect to her. Because, and most of them are Protestant, so they have the idea if it's not in the Bible, then you're not supposed to do it. Well, read the beginning of the book of Luke, and you will see what it says about how the early Christian church felt about the Panagia. Now, they're going to go home and read it? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm more worried about us, to make sure what we know what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. So the Panagia is here, y platitera ton uranon, she who is wider than the heavens. She is a human being. She is one little 14, 15, 16-year-old little kid when she was asked by the Archangel Gabriel to house, to contain in her womb the uncontainable. You see the poetry here, the juxtaposition? She contained in her womb the uncontainable. She, this little child, so to speak, contains in her womb, in her body, He who made all of this. Bear with me. We honor her, just like they did in the earliest of apostolic times. I'm saying all of that because starting this Tuesday, we're starting a very special time in our church calendar. Now, there's a reason for all of that. The reason is to try to remind us, okay, guys, with all due respect, and I'm preaching to the choir, if you will, pun intended here, you're here. I hope those of us that are looking in or might be streaming whenever, we need you back. Summer is not a time when the church closes. One of my children, I think he was saying it half jokingly, but he hit it right on. Someone asked him and said, "Were you in church Sunday?" "No, I wasn't here." "Why were you in church Sunday?" "Oh, church is closed during the summer." That was a half joke. The idea is, during this time, okay, we've had our time, we've had our fun, we've had our beaches, we had our vacations, all of that stuff. It's time to get back on track. And the church, I'm sure before there was ever beach trips of that type, of that magnitude as we have today, they saw that these 15 days of August, we celebrate on the 15th of August, the Dormition, the falling asleep of the Virgin Mary, when she died on this earth. That's what we celebrate on August 15th. But because she is such a special lady, we do not worship her, we honor her, we venerate her. She's a human being, just like you and I are human beings. But she is an exemplary human being because, again, she did something no one had ever done nor will ever do again. We honor her among humans, the greatest of all. Right next to her is John the Baptist, next to Christ over here. But her, a woman, this goes back for a second to go and see what we as Orthodox say oftentimes, well, our women can't be priests, therefore they are limited. We're limiting them what women can do. Baloney. Who is the person, the human being that we honor most? It's a woman. The whole point is that we're asking her and all these other saints that are here, women and men, to pray for us. So during these starting August 1st, and we're doing it not every night, we're doing it Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, when we start, so it'll be August the 2nd, we'll be having a paraklesis service. It's a prayer service. It dates back as Deacon Charles wrote in the little blurb. I don't know if it should be in your missal and be in your bulletins, etc. This was from the 9th century, where it takes about 45, 50 minutes, and it's an opportunity for you, us, together. We're doing it downstairs in the little chapel. We're having a prayer service, and it is asking for God's blessings on us, and we're asking the Panagia, the Virgin Mary, please to pray for us. So I'm saying all of these things because this has been a part of our church. When your children, our children, ask, what's the big deal? Don't turn around to the priest. Don't turn around to the Sunday school teachers. Don't turn around to somebody else to give the answer. You're supposed to know the answer. Don't depend on me, who I may, on a good week, get your kid and have your kid here for 2 hours out of 168. Where's the rest of the 168? 166 hours that you have your child. What am I going to do with him or her in 2 hours if we don't give supplemental, complementary, cooperative working together? You give them something to eat. Don't depend just on this side. I'm not trying to step out of this. I've got a big responsibility too. I realize that, and I'm sure I'm falling far short. But it starts at home. So these next few services that we're going to be having, the 2nd, which is a Wednesday, the following Friday, Then the following week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You don't have to be there at all of them. Try to come to something. Try to come to one. 45, 50 minutes. We have the books in Greek and English. Please bring names of the living. Bring names of the living, because we're at the very end of it, we will read the names. The names that you put. Just put the first name. You don't need to put the last name. Don't have to say, it's Aunt Sarah on my mother's side. God knows who we're talking about, and I'm being a little joking here when I'm saying that. Just the first name of the person you know. And you have 3 people named John, you put John, John, John. 3 Marys, 5 Marys, Mary, 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 Mary. God knows the difference. But we're doing something. We're giving these people something that they need, our prayers. That person who is out there walking around and looking for a hand on a shoulder, just a comfort, say, hey buddy, it's okay. We're going to get through this. This is in our own homes too. It's not always that person out there, that stranger out there that needs help, my prayers. And I'm asking you, I need your help. I need your prayers. Don't wait on somebody else. Our church is so unbelievably inclusive, so unbelievably involved and engaged. And it's waiting on me to make a move too. It's waiting on me to do something. Instead of sitting back with my hands crossed over my shoulders and complaining, this is not going on, that's not going, this is not happening, that's what's going on, da-da-da-da-da. What am I doing? There's a lot of darkness out there, my beloved. Am I going to sit there and complain about it, or am I going to try to light that proverbial candle? Please accept what I'm saying, not as chastising, the opposite. You're here. You're here. You know this message. I'm just trying to emphasize it again. Our church is giving us yet another opportunity to allow one more person to pray for us. The Panagia. Let her be a friend. Let her be someone that you can also go to. We worship God, not the Panagia. But we're asking her, and John the Baptist, and St. George, and Archangel Gabriel, and Agia Caterini, and Ayu Andrea, and Archangel Michael over here, St. Barbara, St. Nicholas. They're there to remind us they're there for us. And she is there because she is trying to welcome us in. That's why she's there depicted like that. She is the drawing force. She's another human being saying to me, hey, come on, come in, be part of this, be part of us. This is the beauty that we have been given to us. Hope and pray that we also learn to appreciate what we have been given. Thank you for your patience.